What is Russell Westbrook, a legit NBA superstar, going to be? Last night was a rough start.
I think we don't know the answer to that, and I think that's going to be a constantly evolving process, to be perfectly honest with you. This is a man who has been the driving force of most offenses he's been associated with, and if he hasn't been first, he's been second. And now he's going to have the ball, Tim, less frequently. When he does have it, he's going to have to move it quicker. And you said something on multiple platforms this morning that intrigued me, the idea that perhaps his best role, which he may not be open to, could be coming off the bench.
I just think it'll allow him to retain as much of who he is as a player as possible while contributing to a winning situation. I mean, think about how cool it would be if he embraced that, if they ever got to this point. And he made it a goal, which, by the way, he would win in a landslide if he wanted to become the sixth man of the year.
Sixth man of the year.
Because you're talking about a guy that even in, let's say, he's a 28, because he'll still be on the floor for the close of the game. He's going to be out there for the last 6 minutes, right, because of who he is. So you're talking about 28, 30-minute-a-night guy. He's going to average maybe a triple-double off the bench. Like, make that your goal. Could you imagine, like, in the impact on winning? Because in this role, and I don't think that's going to happen, by the way, because I just don't think he would embrace that. I just think that'd be a difficult thing for him to wrap his head around. In this role, it's going to be tough sledding a lot of nights to try to figure out, how do I impose my will offensively on this game when it's just not in my hands that much? And as Doris said, my decision-making's different. I'm not a spacer. I'm not a catch-and-shoot guy. How do I find a way to make my mark in ways other than are just energy? Because some of that has to be putting the ball in the basket and being who you are. And that's just, I think, going to be a tough rhythm to find for him.
It does feel like his best minutes on the floor are going to be when LeBron isn't on the floor, and that is going to be sort of a complicated puzzle.
I do think we saw what the Lakers potentially could be, and that's a devastating transition force. They've got speed. You've got exceptional passers in LeBron James and Rajon Rondo. But he is not a great cutter, Greeny. He's not going to score enough off tip dunks or things of that nature. And so this is going to be the unfolding storyline. But the fact of the matter is, whatever his role turns out to be, if Anthony Davis is at the level we saw last night, then they are in the conversation for championship. Because LeBron James in year 19, the first play he makes in the game is a block coming over in defensive rotation, and Father Time has not quite caught him yet. Now, we'll see over 82 games. But when Anthony Davis is healthy, engaged, assertive, and aggressive, they're a different team because he's as big a problem, healthy and engaged, as anybody else in the league on both ends.
Greeny presented by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance. Visit Progressive.com. Doris, Burke, and Tim Legler with us here for a few extra minutes, and we're so appreciative. Let me go to the other game last night. The defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, they get their rings. Giannis goes out there. He plays great, looks great. They win going away in the fourth quarter against a Brooklyn Net team that is arguably the most confounding one in the in the NBA, based upon the circumstances with Kyrie. So let me ask you this, Tim. In the absence of Kyrie Irving, what are the Brooklyn Nets?
They're a team right now that I think has enough talent to be right there, near the top of the East. But right now, they're miles away from the Bucks. Right, the Bucks are confident, they're champions, they're intact, they got better offensively. They believe they're just in a different place right now than every other team in the league, honestly. So the Nets aren't there yet. They have enough talent to be looking them in the eye at some point. What they are right now are a team that has 2 of the top 5 offensive players in the NBA that haven't played a lot together, that have to figure out the ebb and flow of games together. They haven't really done that, those 2 guys, much less all of the role players around them understanding every night how to get in a comfort zone of what it's like to play with those 2 guys. So they are a work in progress that at their best are going to be a team. It's never going to be great defensively, but could be so good offensively, it'll make up for all of that on the other end of the floor. But they're not there right now because they just don't have enough time together.
What strikes me is some of the things that haunted them a season ago already haunted them in game 1, and that's rebounding because of their lack of size. And the second thing is the defensive end, which you just mentioned. Now, we will say, remember what happened in the playoffs. Their defense turned it up a notch. But those 2 things have got to be a concern for Steve Nash.
In the event they get Kyrie back, and that still seems like the likeliest scenario because it's just hard to imagine that this will go on all year, then they overcome practically anything by just outscoring everyone, and we see if that winds up winning them a championship. If not, then I think they have a variety of questions. Let me go a couple of other places with you quickly. We're going to be doing NBA Countdown tonight from the floor at the Garden. We've got the Knicks and the Celtics, who are two interesting teams in what is suddenly a very competitive East.
Yes.
If you wanted to make an argument, the East is every bit as good as the West now. I think you could. Doris, who goes farther? Which team do you buy into more as this season begins, the Knicks or the Celtics?
My first leaning would be the Knicks, but I'm going to say this. If Kemba Walker can get the burst back that made him an all-star, and you can combine he and Derrick Rose at the point guard position, then I think their ceiling may be a little bit higher. But we've also seen Kemba Walker when he's been unavailable, and that's frustrating for the guys around him. We've seen him in pick-and-roll action, which is his best play, coming off that high screen at the top of the key, gets into it, can shoot it at a great percentage because he's put in all those work. He gets swallowed up in the playoffs because there's no burst there. If he can get back and healthy, I love what he can do to elevate the Knicks.
Yeah, I love it. And my answer is going to be the Knicks. And I didn't think I'd say that, but here's why. Part of it has been with Kemba Walker, his health. I completely agree. I also think there was a part of it with Kemba Walker. He also, like we're talking about Westbrook, he never really looked like he completely understood when he could go be Kemba Walker, the guy we saw in Charlotte for all those years, who at his core, what is he? He's a scoring point guard. He's an attacking point guard. Now he's on this team, and he's such a great guy and great teammate, and he's got a bounce and a smile, and all those things are great. But he's got a team with two forwards they're building their offense around. As a point guard, that was difficult for him to navigate. I could see it on a nightly basis. I think now he's back into place, and I know Julius Randle took a big step forward next year, but they desperately need leadership as a primary ball handler. Kemba Walker is in New York. He's expressed, I'm thrilled to be there, and he's going to go back to that role that he had before. It's his show. You're first. We're going to run off of your battery. And I think you're going to see Kemba Walker have an enormous year. Fournier's a great pickup. I really like the Knicks, and I think Boston has some questions to answer with their roster.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.